All right, we are here. Welcome to That Time I Bombed. This is episode 2, which I don't know what we're going to call it yet. I'm thinking 13 bombs. We'll get to that later. But my guest this week is the one and only Dustin Nickerson.
Hello.
Hello to the room.
Hello to the guitars and you and
Your wife and
my lovely wife.
Yeah. I thought you were going to leave her out, but you threw her in. That's good.
No, I brought someone. I'm a bringer. I'm a draw. I brought it my own crowd.
This is, I don't know. This is the show we do where we tell the worst stories of what can happen in comedy. Because I think once you start getting good at it and people see that you're good, I think people just assume that's how it goes every night. And it's such a false thought to have that's why we do this show. Have you been touring a lot during all of this?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been on and off. I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, Taylor Tomlinson, about this.
Yeah.
And I have a new bit that I've been working on about being a guy when you go to Victoria's Secret and how awkward it is and how there's nowhere to put your eyes. And, do you look at the mannequin? Do you look at your wife? You certainly don't make contact with your, another woman. And you're like, I'm just going to go down to lids. And it's like, and I was like, why is this good, but not great? Like, why isn't this working out? And I was like, oh, because I take 5 days off between each time I do comedy. I'm doing in a month what we used to do in a week.
Yeah.
So yes, but it's been another real quick story. I did Long Time No See, which is a cool show up in LA. And the booker he pulled me aside after. He's like, dude, you were like really strong outside. And I was like, I don't want that at outside shows. It was an outside show. He's like, you're good at outdoor comedy. I was like, I don't want to be.
No.
But I've been touring backyards this whole last 6 months.
So you're like ahead of everybody because you set up all those backyard shows.
And I did a special outside.
Yeah, that's right. Available on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, it's called Overwhelmed. And I didn't, you don't plan these things like how you want to do them. But I'm in the Zoltan School of Comedy, and which is like
do it wherever you can.
which is your material has a shelf life.
Oh yeah,
good and bad.
Yeah,
it's like what Louis talks about. It has a fruit life, and I was like, these bits are good. They disappear in 6 months.
They really do.
And that I didn't want to film an outside special this year, but I did, and so I've gotten. I don't want to say good. But I went on that show with I could tell comics who hadn't done a lot of it. I was like, oh, I am better than you guys at this.
Yes. Yeah, it reminds me of when I would work in Vegas and then I would look at the street performers outside.
Yeah.
And there's this one guy playing the violin, but he had Wu-Tang on a boombox and he was playing to Wu-Tang.
Yes.
And then the next song he puts on Celine Dion and he's playing to that, but with like a hip hop kind of vibe to his vibe. And I'm like, he should be inside. But maybe he got good at being outside. And it's like, if he goes in, maybe it would like ruin his whole shtick. It would be like, oh no, I've trained to be outside.
Yeah.
So it's a thing you got good at out of necessity. But it's like, I'm sure you can't wait to go back inside and have it really normal.
He's like the best. He's Bull Durham. He's a great minor league catcher. But that's where he's going to be now.
Yeah, and you got to sleep with Susan Sarandon, which isn't the worst.
Yeah, while Tim Robbins does too. Wait, Tim Robbins? That's the name of
it? Yeah. He was the young gun pitcher. Yeah. And he's like...
That's primarily what this podcast is about, right? Is the plot of Bull Durham.
Yes, that's all that it's about. Go watch Bull Durham. Pay the $3.99 to rent it on Amazon Prime and then get his special.
Or reverse the order, whatever you prefer.
Either way. But you've been doing outdoor shows.
I've been doing a lot of outdoor shows. And it's, it's out of necessity.
Right.
Because I want to do comedy. And, last spring, everyone took COVID pretty seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
And there was like, I just threw it out to my fan base and was like, who'd be interested in doing this? And we did together probably 15, 20 dates. And
15, 20 backyards that your fans hosted.
Yeah. And they're private gigs. So they're, they're so fun because they invite all the right people. Like, so if you were to book a band to come play at your house or backyard, which is what this model is based off of.
Right.
Which is private gigs when you're in town touring somewhere else. I have a friend of mine who manages bands, and he's like, this is what people do. And he goes, this is what he named John Mayer specifically. There's a picture of John Mayer up there. He's like, John Mayer would play a club, and then would be doing a series of other dates that nobody knew about in that town.
Yeah.
Private gigs, house shows,
Right.
and you can build up a fan base and you can just make extra dough while you're in town. And so it started that way with just like, hey, who wants a show? I want a tour. I want to do some work. And now it's mapping out routing, doing multiple in there. In the fall, I'm doing Helium, which you just did in Portland on a
Yeah.
Thursday, and Tacoma Comedy Club on a Sunday.
Right.
And Friday and Saturday, I'm going to do 3 to 5 backyard shows in between then.
That's
in
great.
the Northwest. So you just kind of, I think it's always going to be there for me.
Yeah, I just came back from Portland, and those shows were amazing.
Right.
But they were inside. You did the Helium in Portland, where it was outside.
Okay. No, I did the Helium in Philly.
In Philly, that's what I meant. You did Philly outside, which I've done indoors. It's great. Where the hell do they do it outside?
Not real. There's not really a space.
Right. Because it's all brick.
Yeah. There's so many like random spaces. They're like, could we do a show here? Like long time no see. I swear we were in a recycling center.
Right.
Like I've done parking lots and alleyways, and what it is like, so Philly, it's such a shame because it's across the street from the Fillmore, legendary venue. And then there's the Punch. So it wasn't the Helium, but sorry, it's the Punchline. The Philly Punchline. And I was out there middling, which I thought was middling. I was opening for Taylor Tomlinson. Ended up being a 2-person show.
Hey.
Outdoor shows.
Okay.
It would not be dark until about 10 minutes into her set.
Oh.
So I'm going on in daylight.
Yeah. I don't think people understand bombing in daylight. It's a special level.
Yeah.
It's
like you're watching the sunset on your career.
Yeah.
It's a really just like, because your senses are actually more heightened right during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just like, you're getting heckled by friggin' seagulls.
Yeah.
You're getting like just every loud. Oh yeah. And so, did you see the most recent, not the most recent, did you see Creed when it came out? It was
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in Creed, there's a big emphasis on how people in Philly like love to ride dirt bikes and like loud, souped up 4-wheelers. They have a like big, and I was like, oh, I've never even heard of that. And I've been to Philly, I've never seen that. Well, apparently we were in the neighborhood that happened.
That's great.
So it was during the day with it felt like we were in the middle of a racetrack. Like they were going circles around us. So you're yelling. And the crowd's not there for me. They're there for somebody else. They're not my demo. It was mostly young single females.
Okay.
Who you ever feel like someone hates you just because of who you are?
Yeah.
Like I haven't said a word and they're like, we don't like anything that you're putting out. We don't like anything that you're selling. We don't. And so I was cold opening.
Yeah.
The bartender would be like, all right, you guys excited for Taylor Tomlinson? Woo! All right, welcome to the stage. Your opener.
Immediately disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then doing it outside, like comedy, it's like, there's a reason vampires come out at night.
Yeah.
All right. Because comedy and vampires are best in the dark.
Yeah.
And then in the daylight, you're just like, that's a chubby goth kid.
Yeah.
That's all that is his mascara is melting.
You should never have to put on sunscreen before your set.
No. No. So how many shows did you have?
So the pain of it all is this wasn't one gig. Taylor has a Netflix special and was selling out, and they were 30 people shows in a pretty big outdoor spread out patio type space. So I bombed for 13 straight shows. Just took I was out there for almost 2 weeks bombing. 2 weeks of bombs. Just over, and I had one of the days that I was like, I would get beat up and demoralized. And then one of the days I literally went and ran the Rocky steps to try and inspire me. I was like, come on, man, this is get that eye of the tiger done. And I probably bombed hard. I mean, I was doing a cold 30, which I haven't done cold 30 since my casino days.
Yeah.
Opening a show with a half an hour. Host usually does 10, 15 tops.
Yep.
He gets everybody set, everybody's settling. And so I'm bombing for at least a half an hour a night for almost 2 weeks. And I remember at the end of the night, because when you go in as the opener, your hope is to like capitalize and maybe get like your own
Yeah.
headliner weekend
Right.
at the end.
Or grab some of their fans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
None of that. Absolutely none of that. The booker / owner hands me the check and says, "Thanks for really putting the work in this week."
Just the nicest way to put it. That is the nicest.
You didn't quit.
I mean, 13 defeats.
Yeah.
That's like, what was it after the 7th one where you're like, I think this is how it's going to go?
Much earlier.
Yeah.
You know, though, no, that's not true because we started on like a Monday. And so it was like a Vegas week where I was like, oh, it'll get better by the time we get to the weekend.
Right.
By the second show Friday, I was like, this is just how it's going to be.
This is it.
I'm in Philly to bomb.
Yep.
This is what I'm here for.
Think about it as a boxer who takes 13 knockouts.
In his first 13 fights.
And at some point, your family steps in and goes, I don't think you can handle this brain damage. Like, I don't think your brain can handle 13 defeats like that.
Yeah.
I've bombed horribly many a times, but never 13 in a row, and you're still standing. Hey, if you guys are enjoying this episode of That Time I Bombed with Dustin Nickerson, check out the full episode. Click right here for our partners channel, Dharma Den Sessions, and you can watch the whole thing. Thank you for your support, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.